Yeah, the other big story happening here at the moment is the big conflict between Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe. And Elon's very publicly taken a strong stance in favour of Rupert Lowe. And you said, Nigel, you said on this very programme, Nigel, you don't think is up to the job. What's your current take on this conflict? Rupert Lowe's basically been thrown out of the party. He's been referred to the police for criminal investigation about things he's alleged to have said. What's your take on it?
Well, I've seen that more or less from the side. It's terribly weak to hear stuff like that. Terribly bickering, it just reeks of weakness, So then that's no good at all. You don't want anything like that. And, no, I don't. Unfortunately, the Reform Party is sort of like your Tory party, in the same jacket, different color, and it's sad actually, because I didn't like seeing Starmer there, visiting Trump and leaning over as far as he could in the other direction while he was talking to Trump. This little sort of prick of a character. That's how I see it, and I mean, it's pathetic. If I'd been Trump, I'd have told him, he can see one of the juniors, but he can't see me. I wouldn't have seen him. I would have said no. But not after you've told people that I'm this and that and the other, publicly and so on, as Starmer and his crowd have done. So yeah, but as far as the Reform Party is concerned, I don't know. I go on a few of these other channels and they talk about that everything's okayish in the US, in the United Kingdom at the moment, okayish, and I say that's nice to hear. And, I'm happy to hear that. At the same time, the sort of bad things are going on. They're still carrying on. It's becoming a taxed country, a country, it's heading more and more to the situation where in England, in UK, I mean, the government is far more than half your life. And you don't want that. The very worst you want is government and politics to be half your life. Preferably about 10% of your life. But when it's starting to become 60 to 70% of your life, well, then it's not fun anymore at all. Then you want to see what's wrong here, And, my thoughts went earlier today when I was listening to something to the time when you had Henry VIII.
Yes. Who
simply, this monster. I mean, if I was in England, I'd have everything that relates to him scratched, damaged, chipped off the wall. He simply had people who said who opposed him had their heads removed.
And I know I always make this point. We look at history. History is really ugly.
That's not right.
And we teach school children it's all a bit of fun. We laugh about it. It's tragic. It's awful when you look at the realities.
No.
No, quite.
Yes, they make these movies as though it's some sort of glamorous thing.
Yeah.
No. As far as England is concerned at the moment, it's quieting down. I'm not sure what to say about the UK at the moment. I have no idea what to say, except I thought by now Starmer would have done so many bad things who have been removed or had to have called an election of some kind.
That's what you said. You said
improved.
To me.
I don't know.
We had a bet he was going to be out by February, I think you said, and having a look at that. But I agree with you with the way he was groveling up to Trump. It was embarrassing, wasn't it?
Well, yes. I mean, if I were him, I would have maybe he did. I would have apologized. I would have said, look, I'd like to apologize for the things we said about you. Maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe he did.
Well, he should have done it publicly. I mean, Zelensky made the mistake of that appalling thing in the White House there. And he had to sort of come back groveling, didn't he?
Yes, it looked like that. And then, of course, I did see that the next day he went off after Trump said no more weapons to Ukraine. Off he went the next day and addressed the rest of those Davos people that call themselves elected politicians of some kind, that we're now going to scrape the barrel and find everything we've got weapon-wise for Ukraine. And we're going to send it to Ukraine. so that we can keep this war going.